Thank you. So yeah, it's my third talk and the last day, so I might be a bit tired, but I'll try to go through in 20 minutes. So I'm going to speak about how you can create a simple or advanced leaflet client on top of FME server. So a little bit about me. I'm the BLT of FME, and BLT is a sandwich with bacon, lettuce, and tomato. I have 5 years experience of FME. I do all the safe software, correspondence, support, workshop, webinars, everything. And I'm quite eager to move data between closed sources and open source. So we use FME Cloud and FME Desktop together with a lot of different open source tools. So there's so many workspaces laying around. So on my computer, there's like 3,000 of them, and they're not being used. I can't run them all every day. So what can we use to make them more available to other people? So there's not too many FME users in the world, so we need to make regular people or your grandmother available to run a workspace. So how do you get the actual end user to run a workspace without knowing it? So the first thing is, yeah, you install FME Desktop. Well, your grandmother can't install FME Desktop. She doesn't know how to install everything. There's some licensing, files and folders, they're like unknowns. And they get tired and, yeah, where's my Word document? Or I just go back, do this stuff I do. So that's not an option for that kind of user. So what about server? ServerCloud lets you run workspaces via a browser. So here you see the full dashboard. You can simplify it now in 2017 and remove a lot of the boxes. So basically you only have a run button and what to run. But still, it's not in your local language. You can customize it quite easily. And yeah, let's go to YouTube and look at cat videos instead. It's too advanced. So that's why we made the Nordkart Analyse. So it's an analysis platform or a web client. So that was for the end user to make it easier to use FME workspaces. So you see here a map, a leaflet map with a geometry selected. And you see the published parameters to the left. So this is one-to-one with what you see in FME Desktop and FME Server. So how do you use this? Well, you log into with your regular Microsoft account. You get a list of all the workspaces or services that's available. They can be on different FME clouds, a local FME server, or whatever. So what this workspace does is just connect to a VMS server, and it saves the rasters as a KMZ file, so you can import it into some application. So to the left here, we see that you can select the geometry. So if you create a published parameter called geom point, then the client will know that, the user has to input a point. So there's a lot of reserved words that the client will translate into user actions. The second parameters are all the published parameters in the workspace. And then the user can just input his email and run. And then it will ship to FME server and you will get an email with the result. If it's a PDF, some data, it doesn't matter. And the user doesn't know that he runs a workspace. So they get what they need in their own language, and you can customize the text quite easily. So I'm going to tell a little about the architecture, and at the end I will show a simple demo of a much simpler client. So as I said, the translation parameters, or the published parameters in your workbench, is the same as comes to the client. And there are some reserved words that can be used in the client. So the happy user at the top only have to look at the web client. Beneath that we have a small service layer. And beneath that again we have the FME Server REST API. And further down it's FME Server and FME Desktop who starts everything. And this gets synchronized every time you upload a new workspace. The client will know it immediately. So how do you do this? Well, you create a method or workbench in FME Desktop as you would normally do. You hit the publish to FME Server to any of your on-site or cloud FME servers. And then you just basically have to do nothing else when it's configured. You just have to make sure that the parameters that you want to give the user is a published parameter. So you don't need to change your workflow or anything. The client will notice. So the advantages of this having a simpler client is that you can also use all your other services. We have some in-house services to generate certain PDFs. We move some data, we do some geocoding, it doesn't matter. For the end user, he's just signing on and getting his stuff done. We have added the Active Directory, so you don't need a new password, so it's simple. And you can connect to multiple FME servers, so you can have a large one, a small one, you can have different departments or whatever. So we had one developer who created the service layer and the client, basically. And it was quite easy just to give him the FME REST API. Here is what you're going to implement. And then he was on his way. So how many have used the REST API already of FME Server? So it's quite simple. Even I can understand it. So it's basically a URL after you have given a password and got a token. So you can list, for instance, repositories or folders that contains different workspaces. And you get a JSON in return, or an XML. So within all these folders or repositories, there's a certain amount of workspaces. So you can list them and get some information on those also. And the last thing is you get information with all the published parameters for that certain workspace. And when you have the service layer do this every minute or whenever there's a change, then it can automatically update the client. So let's see. So this is quite an advanced architecture, and as an FME guy, I can't create this. But what I can do is create a much simpler client. So we had a client that didn't want the whole shebang. He wanted the simple stuff just by email. So the goal was to create a map with some points showing some data set, and they wanted it delivered every morning at 8 o'clock. So this is a leaflet map with a table underneath, and you can select some layers. And this is generated with FME. So I'm not going into detail about this, but I'll explain the most important parts. So basically, it reads data from someone. This is a Google Docs survey. We have our own geocoder because they write their house address manually. So you get the coordinate out of that. You do some data cleaning to get rid of points that's not within a municipality, that has errors or something. And then you create all the different layers and colors and boxes dynamically. So when you have done that, then you just write to a GeoJSON in this case, because the GeoJSON can be wrapped up easily on the in the client. So it's actually a part of this file. So if we open in Sublime, for instance, then we see it's a regular HTML. And it takes some time to load because there's a lot of data. And we see that here is the actual content. Everything is embedded within the file. So if I go offline now, the only thing that will be missing is the background map. It will still work. So it's one file with both the data and styling and everything. It's not nice, so because they didn't want to pay much. So it's a cheap solution, but it just works. So the magic here is writing the data to a JSON and then reading it again. And we combine all these, the data part, the styling, the selection of layers. And then I use an attribute creator to merge all this together. So it's not nice, but it's cheap. So you basically have the template, HTML template, and then you input all your values. So for instance here you put your GeoJSON with the data. You have some configuration, and you have some table at the end. So it writes the HTML file, notifies the server that now the file is ready, and 3 or 4 people at the municipality get an email every morning at 8 o'clock, and they pay like $10 or something every week. But if you can scale it, and you can use it for the manager, he wonders, have you done anything today? Have you worked with any data? You can just ship him an email every day that, yeah, I've been adding a new data set. Here it is. These are the changes in your databases. And yeah, so you can use it on small projects. Yeah, that was all. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions from the audience here? I'll start you off with one. You said that this leaflet map was a simpler, easier solution. How much time did you spend to get this page up and running?
Well, since I don't know Leaflet, HTML, or CSS, I think I spent 2 hours finding the tutorial to adding points. And then I asked one of our real developers how to make this drop-down thing. And the good thing here is that we have a lot of in-house developers that knows. I can just explain to them, okay, spend 1 hour creating this, and then I can basically change it afterwards. So.
Fast. Are there any other questions from here? All righty, we'll close our wrap there then. Thanks so much, Leaflet.
Yeah.